or I don't know, cheating. Okay, I'm continuing. So I'm talking about barbecue because I thought while we're quarantining, we could barbecue. Now in California, we barbecue year round, but I thought, and we're getting into barbecue season too, but it's also kind of a hidden message of talking about protein because I think people think when you barbecue, you've always got to have meat. So I'm going to talk a little bit about protein foods, then also about some barbecue ideas. And then I also saw I don't know, on some other, one of the million emails I get, somebody was doing a cooking together Zoom call or class. And I thought that might be kind of fun. I know you've had some cooking demos, and I know the students have been fabulous about making those cute little videos. And I'm not skilled in that area. But I thought maybe I'm talking again in 2 weeks, we could carry on our barbecue theme but just in the kitchen and maybe cook together so that while instead of just sitting there, you guys could be cooking in your kitchens too, if anybody's up for that. So I'll have a list of ingredients, and then next time we can cook together if we want to. So I'm hoping you all like that idea. If you decide no, you hate that idea, then let me know so we'll take another tack. But I thought that might be kind of fun. And so I hope everyone's doing okay during this, what seems to be forever quarantine. And I hope you're doing some great things. I know Linda's keeping you busy exercising and listening to talks and watching cooking demos. So I think those are all fun things to keep us busy during this time. Who knows, maybe someday we'll all be able to get together. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to start with our barbecuing thing. And I'm saying, where's the beef? Because everybody thinks with barbecue, you got to have beef. But we're doing more plant-based. So when we're planning our plant-based meals, you're going to have your protein instead of beef. It's going to be obviously a plant protein. And then we're going to also have our unprocessed carbs and our healthy fats. So take a look at our little plate right there. So half our plate is fruits and or vegetables, or really lots of vegetables and maybe a fruit still on the side. We've got our legumes and nuts. That's what we would call in our traditional plate our protein. And then we've got our whole grains. So we're going to be focusing today mostly on the plant proteins, but also on the sides, which would include some of the carbs and maybe healthy fats. So if you've been doing plant-based for a while, you know what everybody asks you is, oh my gosh, what are you going to do? Where are you going to get your protein? And they're right in some respects. The protein is really important. And so here's just a list here of some of the things protein does, and we've got to keep our protein up. And that's not hard at all with a plant-based diet, but people who haven't followed that don't realize that. But we need protein because it's part of our body's actual structure. So we need it for building and repairing our tissues, for our cells that turn over all the time, to make antibodies, which we want to be developing right now to be fighting off getting sick, to make enzymes, like an enzyme might be lactase. That's the enzyme that are in our tummies to help digest lactose, which is the sugar in milk. So that's just an example of one of the enzymes. Also, hormones are made. So think estrogen, testosterone, vitamin D is a hormone. So some vitamins are hormones too. And then protein also are carriers. So proteins carry oxygen around, carry electronics around. When you have your blood tested and you have your LDL, that's a lipoprotein. That's a protein like a little truck that's carrying your fat or your lipids around. So you need protein for all those things. And if you're trying to lose weight, protein is very important too. Well, and I'm going to say also even just following a plant-based diet where your calories might be a little less dense. We need protein to help us feel more full. Also while we're losing weight, you want to be losing fat, not lean muscle. So when we got plenty of protein on board, it helps preserve our lean muscle. And so I think that's often the premise of some of those weight loss diets where they go super high protein. It's because that protein makes you feel more full. But we can easily do protein with our plant foods. So this is a lot just to show you the numbers. And if you want to try that, just jot down a few numbers so you can do it on your own later. I have to move this little guy because I can't see that number. Okay, there we go. So how much protein do you need? Well, when you're going plant-based, sometimes we say to have a teeny bit more. So you can see my vegan one, because we're not getting as perfect a quality of protein as when we eat animal foods. So the RDA is 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per kilogram. Or if we're going to convert that into the way we often think, which is per pound, it's 0.36, 0.45 grams per pound. Now, most vegans, so that's plant-based people, no animal foods at all, they just kind of split the difference and say 0.9 or 0.4 per pound. So, and we usually also, if you're going to calculate this on your own, you're going to use your current body weight, your current ideal body weight. So if you have extra body fat, we don't necessarily want to count that, because fat doesn't really need to be, doesn't need to have that protein. So we want to count what are more our current or our ideal body weight. So if you're a little extra weight, just do what you think would be a good weight for you. So as an example here, and this is how you can do this on your own, just jot these couple numbers down. So if you're a 200-pound person, and we multiply that by 0.36 grams of protein per pound, that means we need about 72 grams of protein a day. We'll talk about how much is in different things. But for most, the range is like 40 to 80. Ladies, we need a little less. We're like 40, 50. Guys, you're a little bit higher. Another way to calculate it is about 10 to 20% of your calories from protein. If you are doing one of those online programs like MyFitnessPal, or the one we learned about last week from one of the students, which is Chronometer, which I've been using since then, just to see how I like that. They'll usually do the 0.8 or the 10% of your calories. So if you're following a 1,500 calorie diet, 10% is 150 calories, and we would divide that by 4 to find out how many grams of protein that means. So that's just FYI. I'm not saying you have to count protein, but I think the point of this is to show we don't need nearly as much as everybody says we do. You know, and I'm sad to say, where I work, we do a lot of bariatric patients, patients who are preparing for weight loss surgery, and they have them do, I feel like, way too much protein because they want them to feel full and preserve their lean muscle mass. But it's not uncommon out there for people to say, oh, you need lots more protein. Or if you look on the internet or Facebook or whatever, oh, you need so much protein. We really don't. We really don't need that much protein. So that was the point of that. So we get to, when you're thinking plant-based, you get to start thinking about the quality of our protein, because people say, oh, plants don't have good protein. And you know, that's not true. All protein is made up of the same things. They're made up of amino acids. They're just like a bunch of little building blocks. Now, we've got 9 essential amino acids, building blocks. So essential means we've got to get them from our diet because our body won't make them. They're also now calling them a lot of times indispensable, meaning we got to have those or we're not going to survive. So there's 20 total amino acids. So 9 of those are essential. In the plant proteins, they have all the essential amino acids, but they're not in as large quantities. Animal protein, they have all the essential amino acids in high doses. Plant protein, not quite so high. So combining a variety of plant foods helps make sure that you're getting all your amino acids. Now, back in the day, when, what was that book? Diet for a Small Planet. They were just discovering this stuff. And at that point, we couldn't even look down at the cellular level like we do now. But they thought you had to combine your foods at the same meal in order to make it a complete protein. Now we know you don't have to do that, thank goodness. We just need to get that right amount of calories and have some good foods throughout the day. So as an example of what they would tell us is beans, which we're going to talk a lot about today, are low in methionine, one of the amino acids. Grains are low in lysine, but have plenty of methionine. So if you eat a bean and a grain, like bean burrito, then you have a complete protein. So now we know, though, that you don't need to combine it at the same meal. And to me, that's just sort of an indicator to me when somebody is talking to me. Like if I'm hearing a speaker and they're still saying you have to combine at the same meal, they are not up on the current research. We don't need to do that. So that's an indicator to me of how much somebody really knows, is if they're telling us we got to combine at the same meal. But if we eat a variety of foods throughout the day, now we know we have these little like pools of amino acids that the amino acids go into. We eat our protein, it breaks into amino acids, goes and jumps in the pool. And then when we need to make something like an antibody, it goes fishing in the pool, and that's where we can get our amino acids. So you don't have to do it at the same meal. But it is true that plant-based proteins don't have all the essential amino acids always in large quantities, but they do have all the essential amino acids. So don't let anybody tell you different. So if we're starting to think about our plant foods, what are going to be our protein powerhouses for eating plant-based? I'd say beans and legumes are the powerhouse. 7 to 9 grams in a half-cup serving. Oh, and you know, I never really told you. Let me just give you a reference. I'm going to give you a meat reference because it's just easy for us to understand. A decacard size piece of meat, which is about 3 ounces, is the equivalent to about 21 grams of protein. So when we're looking at these, you can tell they can be a little bit lower, but all these proteins are going to add up. So we really don't need to be eating those decacards. So, okay, beans and legumes, 7 to 9 grams and just a half cup cooked. That's cooked. And I'm talking about, it says cooked dried beans because that happens to be a bean or legume, but the half cup serving is a cooked serving of beans. Lentils fit in here, split peas, soybeans, and beans, remember from that previous slide, are high in that lysine. So they end up having a lot of that one amino acid. So, and this is any of the beans you like, garbanzos, kidney beans, pinto beans, anasazi beans, all those fancy beans out there. Now, beans are awesome because, and I might have a slide that says this, but they're high in protein, high in fiber, and very low in fat. Really only the fat in them is what we add to it. Now, nuts and seeds, on the other hand, also a good source of protein, 5 to 8 grams in a quarter cup. But if anybody has been kind of counting their calories, they know that is loads of calories and loads of fat because nuts and seeds come with a lot of fat too. It's mostly healthy fat, but it's still a lot of fat. Nut butters, like peanut butter, 2 tablespoons is what a serving is on the jar. That's a couple hundred calories and about 16 grams of fat. Now, other seeds that are going to be having this protein in them, flaxseed, hemp seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds. I would add chia to that list. I don't know why I didn't put chia there, but those would also be good sources of protein. So I think we're going to find that you get the most protein for your low calorie, low fat buck with the beans and legumes. Now, grains also have protein. So some people think, well, you know, if you didn't eat meat at your meal, you didn't get any protein. Well, that is not true. When we eat our vegetables, when we eat our grains, we're also getting protein. So 2 to 6 grams of protein per serving. I think that's a half cup serving. So that would be any of the grains you like, you know, brown rice, quinoa, amaranth. I'm trying to think of the ones I have in my cupboard. Barley, you know, and just since quinoa is right here, I just was listening to a little clip from Dr. Greger this morning about how quinoa can be good to help lower our triglycerides because of that fiber in it. So just as an aside. Oats, good source of protein. Now, we've talked before about the hierarchy of our grains. Oat groats are the top dog. And then, you know, we go down to steel cut and rolled oats. And we were talking in previous talks about the fiber part. But also the oat groat is going to be your highest in protein. Now, wheat and wheat berries. If you're not used to wheat berries are ground up to make wheat, but we got protein in that. We got protein in sprouts, wheat sprouts. We have some protein. A new thing I'm trying now that I'm in place here is broccoli sprouts. I don't know if you've ever heard about those, but they're supposed to be just super packed with antioxidants and things. So I got some from Amazon. So I've been working on my sprouting. My husband thinks our whole house is just like one big experiment these days. So now veggies also are a good source of protein, generally 1 to 3 grams. You know, they're not a powerhouse, but you're going to get protein. And if we're getting as many veggies as we're supposed to be getting every day, that's all going to add up. That plus our good whole grains, plus a few powerhouses like our beans, we easily get to our protein source, or I mean our protein level. Okay. So sorry, that was my protein. So now let's get back to our barbecue idea. I don't know, I hope we love to barbecue. We barbecue all year. But when you're thinking, we have 2 different sides of our grill. My husband has his meat side, I have my veggie side. But when we're barbecuing, a lot of times we think burgers or sausages or something like that. Now, you can buy those already made, and some of you I know probably love some of those. They tend to be more processed, more high in salt. Some of those newer ones, you know, like the Impossible Burger and things, I don't really know. I would never call those healthy, but they are plant-based. But I wouldn't know that they're really healthy because of all the things they have to do to them. But you know, we can make our own veggie burger. And that's what I would love to do at our next talk in 2 weeks, is make some veggie burgers. And then you can have some to cook then, or you can freeze them all. But it's so nice to have some homemade veggie burgers that you have in the freezer. You can always pull out whenever you want to barbecue. Tofu is another thing that I grill a lot. You want to squeeze out your liquid. I think we've talked about that before. If you don't have a fancy dancy squeezer, you can just set your block of tofu, as firm as you can get, on a plate. Then you put a plate on top of that, and then you put your cast iron skillet on top of that. It squeezes it all out. I cut mine into slices. Sometimes I marinate, sometimes I don't. And I just grill it. Remember, tofu doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. And I'm not sure, back in the sources of protein, soybeans are where tofu come from. So this is a good source of protein. Tempeh is a fermented soy. And you can probably make that on your own, although I've always just bought it. But that's something you could barbecue. Seitan, also called wheat meat, is actually made from the gluten in wheat. And it gives it a meaty texture. So we could be grilling that. Portobello mushrooms, often you'll find those are on the menus when you go out to a restaurant, portobello mushroom burger. And those are great too. They're not the highest protein that we could get, but they fill a bun and you put your lettuce and your tomato on it, and they're awesome. Now, also on the barbecue, I love to do veggies. You can do pizza or flatbreads. You can do jackfruit. If you haven't used jackfruit yet, I generally get it in a can. And, oh, there goes my phone. Sorry about that. And then you could put it on the grill. I'll show you some of the tools I use to be able to do some of these things. And then you could do fruit. Now, fruit doesn't have a whole lot of protein, but it's a super fun thing to do on the grill. Now, you can make your own veggie burgers, and this is what I highly recommend. You know, I gotta say, back when I first became vegetarian or vegan, I did a lot of veggie burgers because it was always a good backup. I mean, I bought those. I bought the ones because I hadn't really learned how easy it was to make my own. So it's always nice to have that as backup. But generally, as a rule of thumb for a recipe for making your own veggie burgers, you usually have beans, usually have a whole grain, and you usually have some veggies thrown in. So we could have, the recipe I'm gonna hopefully share with you next time is black and kidney beans, plus some oatmeal, plus some brown rice that's already cooked, plus some barbecue sauce. I brought these once when I came and did a talk with you all, and everybody really liked those a lot. So I thought they're super easy to make. It's stuff you generally already have on hand. But you'll find a million of them if you Google veggie burger recipes. You could do sweet potato with garbanzo beans, with oats, with quinoa. There's all kinds of recipes. So it's so easy to make them. And generally the recipes, when you make them, you make like a dozen. You can't eat all those unless you're having a party, which we can't have these days. So then you freeze them. You wrap them up in the freezer. Okay. So what do you do with canned beans? I don't know, Linda, could we unmute and people shout out what they do?
Sure.
Okay. These were just some of the things I came up with, but I thought maybe, now, when I talk beans, sorry, I should have said this. You can do canned beans, which are super easy, or you can do dried beans. Either one is fine. Sometimes we get a little worried about doing canned beans because we worry about the salt. But if you get no salt added and you rinse them off, it can be just as good and just as fast.
So
I
quick question,
lately have,
Debbie, when you do the veggie burgers, you're obviously using cooked beans, right?
Yes, very good. Absolutely cooked beans. Yes, thank you. But if you are doing dried beans, that's an awesome choice too. I've been trying to force myself to do dried beans by not buying any canned beans. And it's just one more step to use in your recipes. But especially if you have an Instapot, so quick and easy, and then you make a lot, and I freeze it in like 1.5 cup containers, so that would be the amount that would normally be in a can. So these were just some of the things I think of. So I'd like to hear what everybody else is doing with their canned beans.
I use them as a backup when I make hummus. If I haven't soaked the chickpeas, then it's like I just need to have hummus today, and so I'll grab a can.
You know, that is so true, John. And I always have a can of garbanzo beans as a backup too, just in case I don't want to cook them. You're right. What else? Anybody else?
They're all steak eaters.
Ah, well, see, I guess I like the beans too. Okay, thanks for saying that, John, because my husband is a meat eater. And so when we grill, he's got his meat. I'm usually doing veggies, but I will sometimes just have a can of beans, and we have a little side burner on our grill, and I will throw some beans in there and throw some barbecue sauce in it, and it's barbecue beans. And then that will be my steak, I guess, if I'm not doing anything else. But we can make bean salads, which happens to go well with barbecue. There's the barbecue beans I love. I love to put them on a salad. You can add them to pasta. You can even blend them up. If you have a red sauce and you blend up kidney beans, nobody will know the difference. You can put them in your tacos and burritos. I like them as a component of my bowls, like my Buddha bowls. So I would have like a little quinoa and a little bit of beans and some greens and some whatever else I can find. And then, of course, traditionally, what we've always done with beans is soups, chilies, stews. And so if you have canned beans, you can throw them into anything. And then, and I didn't put this here, what John said was like the hummus. And you don't have to always do garbanzo beans for a dip. Cannellini beans actually go very well with that too. You could do a black bean dip if you have a Mexican type theme. So I think beans are, and I always do keep a backup of canned beans too, although I'm trying not to, so I'll force myself to make some. So here were just some pre-made burgers. I mean, I just found these pictures online. The Impossible Burger, it's an insanely good burger made from insanely good ingredients, but they do a lot of processing to that. I think we're going to be better off by making our own if we can. But if not, these are also, I would call them a backup. Now you got to be careful sometimes. The Morningstar ones, a lot of times, especially if you're trying to do totally plant-based, a lot of times they have eggs or dairy in them. But the Boca Burger was one of the original burgers that is vegan. And for me, it's actually a little too much like a burger. So I don't love it because it's too burgery. I think Amy's makes some decent burgers, and just like the ones I like to make, the ones I like to eat and buy frozen would be the ones that have beans and veggies in them too, and grains. I like those sunshine burgers too, although they can be a little pricey. But, so these could be a backup, or we could make our own. So here is, and I'll share with Linda the recipe, but if you want, next time we get together, you want to all cook together in your kitchen, and I'll be in mine, And we'll just blend. These are the ingredients. This is all it takes. I thought this was pretty good because there's stuff most of us have on hand. So you can make your own beans if you want to. It's a 15-ounce can of beans these days holds about a cup and a half. So it's got 2 cans of black beans, a can of kidney beans, and then we're just going to throw some oats, the brown rice. So if you want to cook together, you want to make sure your brown rice is cooked in advance, because that's what I fail to read every time I'm doing a recipe. I'm like, shoot, now I have to make my brown rice. And some barbecue sauce and a little onion powder. That's all it takes, and they are really yummy. And you don't even have to cook them when we make them. You could just have them all in the freezer and pull them out, or you could cook them and then freeze them cooked, either way. So then I thought, well, that's going to be really easy if we do that together. That won't take up much time. So I thought, well, maybe we think about a side dish. A recipe that's in the book, you know, the book that Linda made from Dr. Capicota, has this Cowboy Caviar, always a hit, a great barbecue side. So I thought maybe we just throw some of that together too if you want to. And so here's the ingredients for that. That one is black-eyed peas, corn, however you like, frozen, canned, fresh off the cob, whatever you like, some green onions, some cilantro, some tomatoes. I have actually done it with canned tomatoes too, because the tomatoes still aren't quite tasty in the stores, and some shredded cabbage. Now, I generally am not a cabbage shredder. I buy it already shredded, and I like to use the rainbow broccoli slaw because I think that looks pretty. And then the dressing is just red wine vinegar, a little hot sauce, garlic and pepper. So if you are interested in making this, have those ingredients, and I think we could do that in our time together, because I don't think any of these are super hard to make. So I'm hoping that you'll be down with that for next time. Okay, so side dishes, here we go. So you're going to barbecue. You decide you're going to barbecue your veggie burger or your tofu or your whatever you like. Some side dishes that would be high in protein and tasty and part of our plant-based life would be baked beans, 3-bean salads, super easy to make. There's the Cowboy Caviar. There's our dips, hummus with your beans and tahini. Veggies, I love to grill corn. Avocado, I've actually grilled a couple times. I put that little picture there. It's kind of fun to cut it in half and just put it on the grill. You basically, you just get the marks, and then it kind of turns it into just something really soft and smooth. And then you can fill that avocado with, say, like your bean salad. And then you could also do just veggies or potatoes. We always do veggies on the grill. I have a grill basket. I found that if I cook the potatoes a little in the microwave first, they all come out done at the same time. And then there's other things that are fun to put on the grill that aren't necessarily protein rich, but I love fruit. I've been doing pineapple like crazy on the grill. You can just cut it up. I see in that picture there, they have it like on a little rotisserie. I've never done that. I've done it both ways. I've cut the pineapple with all the skin and the little top knot thing on and grill it that way. That's fun to be able to flip back and forth. Or I've just totally taken the skin off and done it that way. But grilled pineapple is a keeper. And you could also do peaches, nectarines, plums. Look at from that picture. You're just putting them right straight onto the grill. They just get some marks from the grill. You can do watermelon. You could do fruit kebabs. You could do s'mores. I mean, who doesn't love the s'more? So we could do that too. The portobello mushroom, as we mentioned before, can make a great burger, but not a real protein powerhouse, but it can make a great burger. You could do quesadillas, which actually I love doing on the grill with hummus. And instead of cheese, you use some hummus, or you use a cheesy spread, or cheese that, like a cashew cheese, and spread that on with a bunch of veggies. Very tasty. And this dessert quesadilla, I actually saw this on a cooking show, and I got to admit, it's very good. You get a tortilla, you can do your whole wheat tortilla, spread it with some peanut butter, top it with some banana, maybe throw in some of those vegan mini chocolate chips, fold it in half, and put it on your grill. It's a keeper also. It's very tasty. Now, to do, I've got a few things I like on the grill that help me. One is, besides you need your grill, you need your tongs, you need your spatula. But I like the grill wok, or I call mine a grill basket. You see a little picture here. This looks more like a wok. I do my veggies in that a lot because then they all stay contained. I don't have to worry about them touching the meat that my husband's cooking over on the other side. Then also, some ones that are like that have the little holes in the bottom, they also can come in just a flat grill. I've got that one too. So I like that. I've also got one that's just a flat grill that has no holes. And in fact, that's what I do my veggie burgers on. So, because a lot of times those veggie burgers fall apart a little bit. So I do those on my flat pan that I can do in there. You could also stick a cast iron skillet straight onto your grill and do it on your cast iron skillet. You could do a pizza grill pan, which I happen to get because I love to get gadgets. So the pizza grill pan, it's basically, it has a handle, so you can slide it in, you can take the handle off, grill your pizza and pull it off. I also got the quesadilla grill pan. I don't know, I couldn't say no. And that was actually nice because a lot of times when you've got all those veggies in your quesadilla, they all fall out. So it's somewhat of a cage. So you put your quesadilla in there. So I love that too. I'm a gadget lover. But also you don't need anything. You could just throw things straight onto the grill. Look at that corn. That's how we do our corn too. Straight onto the grill. Okay, so bottom line, protein and barbecue. So it's easy to get plenty of plant-powered protein. You don't really need to be counting. You don't need to have it all at the same meal. We just want to get a bunch of good whole real foods throughout the day, and you're going to be doing good on your protein. So remember, it's a variety of foods throughout the day and every day. And I guess when I'm looking at people's food records, I do think about this. I think, because sometimes people will have, say, a salad, they'll have some lettuce and a few veggies, but really not a whole lot else. So I think it's nice to have a good protein source at meals, at every meal, whether that's beans or tempeh or some nuts, or having a glass of soy milk with your oatmeal at breakfast, having some peanut butter, throwing some beans on a salad. I love to have a little protein at every meal. So I think that just ensures that you're getting plenty. And I think that's all. Oh, barbecue. I forgot I had another slide. Okay, so that was my protein. Here's my barbecue. So you could buy veggie meats or you can make your own. I would really encourage you to tune in next time and we'll just make our own. And you know what, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to go out to the grill, we can do them in the oven. We don't have to go to the grill. So you can just, some people, I know, I'm not one of these people, but your stove has like a flat grill. I love those. I would love that on my next oven. But you can also just stick them in the oven and bake them. So we don't need to be going out to the grill. I put this here because this is supposed to be, and I've actually never made it and I'm dying to try it. I listened to this podcast. It's Responsible Eating and Living. And they have a website. If you want to go to that website, this gal and her partner, they take pictures of what they eat and blog about it every single day, what do vegans eat. But they have a lot of recipes available for free. Now, some can be a little higher in fat and calories, but they could be modified. And they are really good about saying this is a special thing. You're not going to do this all the time. But this is supposed to be like the best burger in the history of burgers. And I'm going to have to try it. I think it's a little complicated, so we're not going to do it together next time. But I'm going to try and make it before we talk next. And then you always add your healthful sides. Beans, grilled veggies, your dips with your veggies or crackers. Throw in some grilled fruit for dessert. Of course, unless you're going the way of the s'more. And if you're thinking, well, I think I am going to splurge on the s'more, you can do s'mores plant-based. You get graham crackers that don't have any animal stuff in it. You get the little vegan marshmallows. You get your little squares of super dark chocolate that's vegan, and you got your s'more. There's just kind of a special thing. I mean, I got to do s'mores in the summer. Okay, I think that's all I've got. So think about, what are you going to do with beans this week? What would be something new you could try? Or is there a new bean? So take a look at my beans here. I've got, that must be like probably a cannellini or a white kidney bean. Then you got your red kidney beans. Then you got your black-eyed peas. That's what we're going to put in our Cowboy caviar. Then we're gonna do they've got black beans. That's the kidney and black beans go in our burgers. And then we got our pinto beans there too. But there's a million other beans. I'd love to hear from you all if you feel like sharing what you're doing with your beans. And I think that's all I've got.
Be sure to look in the chat. There's some questions there.
Oh, how do I do that?
Down below it says chat.
Well, I got out of it somehow.
Well, maybe
when I shared my screen. Can I stop share? Will I see it then?
You can stop sharing.
Okay, I'm stopping sharing. Now I see the chat.
Yeah. So, and tell me about vegan marshmallows. What the heck is that?
Well, for one thing, it's a way to charge us a lot of money. So, but there's a company called, what is it? Somebody help me. Daily. I think it's just sugar. It's like spun sugar with something in it to make them stick together. But marshmallows, a lot of times people think marshmallows, of course they're plant-based because they're a marshmallow, but they're made with gelatin. And gelatin is not plant-based. Gelatin has like all the stuff that they melt down from the animal's hooves and things, and they make gelatin out of it. And so that's what goes in marshmallows. So I can't think of the name. Does anybody know? Somebody chime in, help me out. Those vegan marshmallows. It's like Daily or...
I just looked it up. It's Dandies.
Dandies, thank you. Thank you, John. Yes. Okay.
They're awful. It's way too sweet for my tastes.
They are very sweet. You're right. You were right. So canned or dry beans, I think we talked about that. It's whatever is easiest for you. You know, the thing with dried beans is nowadays it's so easy to make them and they're so much cheaper. You know, I got a pound of beans from Walmart for 58 cents and it made enough for, you know, a number of cans. So I think that's the better way to do. But if you do canned beans, you get the low sodium and you rinse it off. You lose about 40% of the sodium when you rinse it. And you know, barbecue sauces, Elaine, you're right, have a lot of salt. So for a substitute, I would probably try to make my own. And I can't say I've done it in a recipe before, but you generally use like a tomato sauce as your base. I'm going to Google it really fast. Going to Google it because I have done a recipe where you made your own barbecue sauce. If anybody has, chime in, help me out. Apparently no one has. Let's see, I just want to see what they usually put in it. Because you definitely could. You know, the good thing about making your own sauces too, and while we've been home, I've been trying to do that a little more because I can't just always run out to the store, is that you can make smaller quantities. So there is, sorry, I'm looking this up and looking at the next question. So there is a marshmallow recipe that doesn't call for gelatin, which is not kosher. You know, I have made marshmallows before, Elaine, but they always call for gelatin. So there's a recipe that doesn't call for gelatin? I'm assuming yes. I'm gonna look for that. So I don't know if everybody knows Laura Schlon. She's a nurse that used to work with Linda and I, but she taught me how to make marshmallows, but they always called for gelatin. Okay, so I'm looking here for a barbecue sauce recipe. It's canned tomato sauce, apple cider vinegar, a little honey, and some tomato paste. And if you're gonna do Kansas City barbecue, you gotta add some molasses and liquid smoke. And then there's a bunch of spices. So that's not so bad, I suppose. We can make our own. I'm going to try to do that before next time. Thank you for that idea. Okay.
Debbie, didn't one of the recipes for brownies or something, I think the interns made it one day and they used black beans?
Definitely. Yes, the black bean brownie is quite popular. Yeah, the beans can be a substitute for fat in a recipe. And in a brownie type recipe, you don't even know because it's dark, you can't tell. So yeah, that would be a fun thing to do to go with our barbecue. Thanks for sharing that. What else we got? Anything? Oh, no. I think we might be done, Linda.
When you say processed, the burgers that they're processed, do you mean they just contain too much sodium or other stuff too?
It's other stuff too. And, that's a good question because, canned beans are processed too, but they don't really add extra stuff except that salt in the canning process. Whereas in those burgers, and they're fine. I don't want to put those burgers down because I have lived on those burgers in the past. But they add salt, they add flavorings that we don't really understand. A lot of times they'll add more fat. Sometimes they'll even add sugar. So a lot of times they add other things that we just don't even know about. But I think the least processed ones, sometimes they say when you look at a recipe, look at a label, that if it has 5 ingredients or less, it's okay. And I bet most burgers that you would buy have an ingredient list this long. But if you can find some that are really pretty basic, that would be okay. But they will have more salt. Absolutely. They will. Okay, and Lane, I'm going to count on you for that marshmallow recipe. Because I would love to make marshmallows. I haven't since I tried not to do the gelatin.
I just looked online and there are quite a few.
Vegan ones?
Yes.
Oh, you guys are so hip and in touch. Excellent. I'm going to have a lot of things I got to practice before next time. And I love that idea of making my own barbecue sauce for that recipe. And you don't have to do that if you don't want to, of course, but I'm going to try it. Okay.
Is your email on your presentation?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I'll give it to you. Can I chat it to you so then you'll see it?
Yeah.
So you're wondering you shouldn't eat tofu more than twice a week? And there's a lot of research out there about soy getting everybody all scared. And I generally, eating a soy-based product in moderation, they say, has no problems. And moderation is a couple servings a day, not a week. So I don't know. I hope it's not just twice. Shouldn't eat it more than twice a week because I sure do. So most of the research or the media coverage on the soy has been old news. And so generally it's considered safe. Moderation would be a few servings a day. And I feel like it's fine. But for some people, they're uncomfortable with it. I know some people, especially if they have a history, say, of breast cancer, their doctor has told them don't eat soy. I would say to that doctor, you're looking at the old research. But if you're not comfortable with it, then you just don't do it. That's cool. You got to do what you're most comfortable with.
Will your PowerPoint be on the website eventually?
I believe Linda puts them there. Do you do that, Linda? From all your fancy stuff you've been doing?
If you share them, I will post it.
Oh, okay. I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for the email.
Oh, thank you. I love to chat. Feel free to email me whenever.
Okay, I'm going to end
recipes.
I'm going to end the recording here,
Okay.
but not the
We're doing
meeting.
that now.